In a world where a rap battle loser fell in love with lawsuits, after getting pummeled by Pusha, clobbered by Kendrick, disjointed by Joe,
OVHO must go to court. Lawbry in Gentleland, coming to a theater near you.
Lawbrys and Gentlegrams, in today's episode of Lawbry in Gentleland, it's no secret that beneath the beefin' lies a sensitive rapper that feels defeated and incompleted from the deepened dissection of his character projected by the prophetic penman, Pusha T. Years later, and Lawbry's making the tension greater, sneak dissing Pusha when it pens in his favor, and maybe it caters to his OVO fans, but Lawbry's digging a dangerous path, one he'll regret looking back. He knows that Pusha's done with dissing, so that's why he's picked today to chip away at Pusha's personal affairs to try and sway the public into thinking Push is as flawed of a man as Drake is. And if that's what his aim is, did he deliver his verbal spanking on the level of Pusha's diss with his big old heinous hiss? Well, Lawbrys and Gentlegrams, that's for you to decide, but before we break it down, please like and subscribe.
I study
Rapaholics
for a living.
Now, Lawbrys and Gentlegrams, we got a lot to talk about today, okay? Because it seems like every time there's something in the news that makes Lawbry look bad, he turns it right back around, amping up the antics on social media to try and make the narrative shift, to make the public shift their attention onto whatever antics Lawbry has selected. But we're not going to forget, alright? Because Drake was recently roped into a copyright lawsuit, someone claiming that, like he's done in the past, Lawbry has stolen someone's art for his own. Drake's legal team has also re-upped his lawsuit with Kendrick Lamar. If you guys don't remember, the judge dismissed it. Drake's lawyers are back in court arguing why it should go to trial, and they've come with some interesting arguments to say the least. So we're going to take a look at all of that. We're not going to let Lawbry forget that he is the defamation drizzler.
Those
defamation drizzler.
so for me,
like my mafia vibes.
And with that, of course, he's trying to distract the public by stirring up some old tension between him and Pusha T, and even him and T.I. over T.I.'s cousin using Drake as a porta potty way back in 2010. Yes, that sentence is very much real, and we will break it all down. We got a lot to cover today, Lawbrys and Gentlegrams. But before we do that, I spent the last weekend sitting with this brand new Wale album that just came out. Now, Wale is a story that always makes me kind of sad because I feel like his record label has done him dirty, alright? He's got a phenomenal body of work that just hit streaming platforms, and we're not hearing enough people discuss it right now. So if you guys are looking for some good music, if you're part of the group that has been saying hip-hop has been dying, the numbers are dead, yada yada, good music doesn't just exist on the charts, alright? And Wale's got 18 tracks to prove just that. It's called Everything Is a Lot. If you want the bangers, they're there. If you want the soul sample flips, they're there. If you want deep subject matter, amazing melodies, hooks, it's in this album. So I want to make sure before we start with all the shenanigans here, someone who really put the shenanigans aside and dropped a phenomenal body of work that you guys should definitely check out is Wale, alright? So go dig into that on your respective streaming platforms. Let me know if I should make a whole video on Wale, maybe on this project as well. And let's continue on with this video. For real though, that's one of the contenders for Album of the Year this year. I'm not even joking. Now, speaking of Album of the Year, one big album that was supposed to change the game, right? Drop the big red button on the entire industry was Lawbryana's Iceman project, which at this point, can we even say if it's going to come out or not? I made the prediction about 6-7 months ago that I didn't think he was going to drop another project in 2025. He started this whole Iceman rollout and something seemed off from the jump. He seemed confused, the live stream seemed disoriented, no real structure to the stories he was telling. I feel like a lot of it was riding high off the lawsuit he had against UMG. And once that was dropped, where does the story go from there? Where's the big red button that he now can't press because the judge is not giving him the ability to go digging through all of UMG's files to build up this case? The judge
Studies rap battles for a living.
Plus, aside from the singles flopping and all that stuff, right when the judge did dismiss the case, Lawbryana also took the pinned story highlight that was titled Iceman off of his Instagram. He had a bunch of different pictures, I guess, in promotion of Iceman on his Instagram page, and those were all removed. Is he scared of flopping? Is he scared that the label won't support him because he turned his back and sued them? Stay tuned for 2026 to find out. But of course, what was very predictable was that Lawbry was back on Instagram, being the sassy slumber party sexy red stepsister that he is.
Spicy.
Now, if you guys were ever curious how the beef between Pusha T and Drake ended, it never really did. They ultimately stopped dissing each other because after the story of Adin, At the end of that song, when Pusha T said, "This is going to be a surgical summer," basically the same way Kendrick said, "How many stocks do I really have in stock? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 5. Pusha T was ready to go all the way, right? We were just in May when Story of Adin dropped, similarly to Not Like Us and the whole rap battle with Drake and Kendrick. Pusha T's beef with Drake was also in May, and he was saying it was going to be a surgical summer. For the next 3-4 months, they could go crazy with it. Drake knew that he had an album coming out in late June that year, Scorpion. So he decided to opt out of the beef, but that didn't mean he would opt out of the sneak dissing. It's still going on today in 2025. We're going to break that down. But Pusha T was done nastily, if that's a word, nasty, behind the scenes. I'll always give Drake credit in that I think he handled the aftermath of the Pusha T beef pretty well on the surface in the public eye, right? I'm not the biggest fan of his Scorpion album. I think it's a major dip in quality compared to his stuff from 2010 to 2015. But there's no doubt he came with the hits on that project, right? Several of them on a very bloated track list. And between that and pivoting the beef from him versus Pusha T to him versus Kanye West, taking a lot of shots on Kanye throughout that Scorpion album and throughout the rest of the summer on features like Sicko Mode and No Stylist by French Montana, Drake was able to successfully, as Kendrick puts it, Tootsie slide his way out of that one.
Like my mafia vibes.
And it came with a cost for Pusha T. Pusha T kept sending, some slightly indirect shots at Drake throughout the years that followed their direct back and forth. Keep in mind, Drake was sneak dissing Pusha T throughout that entire Scorpion project, so it's only right that Pusha T reciprocated some shots of his own, right? He was on a song with Pop Smoke, Young Thug, and Gunna in 2020 called Paranoid, where he rapped bars like, "If the patois is not followed by a blocka, it's like Mark from Death Screwface without the choppa." Of course, in reference to all the accents Drake puts on, and them being a front to who he really is, and he continues rapping. "Let them rush the stage when you're made like Sinatra, only to hide the blade, flying back through LaGuardia. I might even buy a home out in Mississauga." This is in reference to the fact that after his beef with Drake, it was alleged that Drake bought a bunch of tickets to a Pusha T concert that he had in Toronto, and someone even rushed the stage to try and attack Pusha T. That alone was enough for Pusha T to say that he is now banned from Canada after this beef with Drake.
I'm banned from Canada. Like I can't get back over there, right? Really? Yeah, I ain't allowed to go back over there.
And if you thought that was bad, this verse that I just broke down for you guys, and his verse on Maybach Music 6 with Lil Wayne and Rick Ross, obviously two frequent collaborators of Drake, Pusha T being signed to the same record label as Drake, UMG, actually had these songs censored and thrown off the projects they were supposed to be on. Young Thug at the time had got on Instagram, again he was one of the collaborators on this Pusha T record, and he was basically saying like, "Why are you involving me in this beef that you have with Drake? Don't get me on a song where you're dissing a rapper I'm friends with."
First of all, your verse 7 days, if you know what I mean. I'm up for a week. Second of all, you already went crazy the first time, so you ain't even got it. Ain't nothing but a sucker going on double takes and triple takes and quadruple takes. You should have just got all of that on the first song. You put the first song out. You ain't even had to do all that on those niggas. You just feel like you ain't gonna get enough views on your own, so you came and put some bullshit on a whole nother who's resting in peace music. Cause you feel like, but this is the perfect platform. Thug, Gunna, and Pop Smoke. This is the perfect platform to wet this ass. This is the perfect song to do it on. Why the f*** you ain't do that on your own song? Do that on your own song.
And Pusha T responded to Young Thug's little Instagram tirade with a stark warning, letting him know that if Drake will go as far as behind the scenes having rappers' verses censored, abusing his powers to silence rappers he doesn't like, who knows how far Drake will truly take things. And I mean, that's why I called Pusha T prophetic earlier in this video, because I mean, this was just a flat out prediction of what we'd see transpire with Drake's lawsuit in 2025. And beyond the lawsuit, Pusha T was facing censorship from his label all the way up until 2024 when things reached a boiling point. Obviously, that was the summer that Kendrick Lamar and Drake had their beef, but Pusha T and his brother Malice were actually supposed to release their album right around that time, and they had that Chains and Whips verse from Kendrick Lamar. But Pusha T being signed to Def Jam, a record label under UMG, he was facing some problems when the label heard that verse, specifically because they were already in talks with Drake to try and avoid the lawsuit that Drake would hit them with, and because of that, they didn't want to release any music that involved Kendrick Lamar linking up with another one of Drake's ops.
But you know they love to sue.
Pusha T had said when they finally were able to get off of their record label and release the project on their own terms, he did an interview with GQ where he said, "They wanted me to ask Kendrick to censor his verse, which of course I was never doing. And then they wanted me to just take the record off the album. And so after a month of not doing it, Steve Gawley, the lawyer over there at Def Jam, was like, we'll just drop the clips off our record label. But that can't work because I'm still signed there as a solo artist. But if you let all of us go, then it could work out." And that's exactly what they did. Pusha claims that him and his brother dropped around 7 figures to get let out of their deal, and then they inevitably released the Clips project on Roc Nation. I say all this to say, Pusha T went through corporate hell, all as a result of him engaging in a rap battle with Drake that Drake willingly participated in, and then backed out of, but not without continuously sending subliminal shots aimed Pusha's way, even as recent as 2022 on the song Churchill Downs. But meanwhile, behind the scenes, Pusha T was unable to release verses where he was referencing his issues involving the beef, like getting rushed on stage at his concert in Toronto, and he was unable to release verses that he had with Kendrick Lamar. But now in the big 2025, Labry has adopted this strategy of avoiding sending subliminal shots on record to rappers, but instead sending them on social media. See, it's very strategic, all this stuff, right? On his records, like What Did I Miss, Give Me a Hug, Irish Freestyle, he's out here dissing Demar Derozan, LeBron James, Joe Budden, all people who either retired from rap or just never rapped to begin with. But you've got artists like T-Pain, even Kendrick himself, and now T.I. and Pusha T, that Drake is most definitely not afraid of sending shots at online. Of course, he's not going to do it in the booth because he knows the repercussions that come with that, but no harm in letting those petty Twitter fingers go to work, right?
I study
Petty Twitter fingers
for a living.
Now it's funny because as all that's going on Instagram, which we'll break down, you have Kanye West, the guy who arguably may have started the beef with Pusha T and Drake, the guy who definitely continued the beef with Drake long after Pusha T stopped dissing Drake. Just as recently as last year, Kanye was calling Drake homophobic slurs on Twitter, but also simultaneously has a very deranged obsession with Drake. Him and Drake have recently followed each other again on Instagram. I know this is big news for the unemployed. But it's just interesting that, Drake will go on to subliminally diss all these guys that he's too scared to actually rap against. But as far as Kanye West could disrespect Drake all he wants. Drake will still end up, for whatever reason, forgiving him. Don't forget, Drake is Jewish, and we know what Kanye West, the horrible things he was saying about Jewish people as well, right? So it's funny, Drake will still come back around to Kanye, but is not afraid to keep dissing Pusha T, even though he's been censoring Pusha T for years now, allegedly, through the record labels. Now, recently, Pusha T was celebrating the news that he's got a second baby on the way with his wife, Virginia Williams. He posted this caption on Instagram, and people had problems with the second paragraph, which I guess I understand here, right? I mean, some fathers just don't like diapers too much. He said, "Thank you for my second baby boy. I hope you carry on with tradition and never teach me how to change a diaper, prep a meal, suck out a snotty nose, or anything else a supermom does. You make things very easy for me, and I love and appreciate you for it all." Now, of course, the internet had a field day with this because a big part in Pusha T and Drake's beef was the fact that Pusha T was labeling Drake as a deadbeat father, right? He was hiding his kid from the world, he wasn't involved in that child's life, and was disgraced by the child's mother and her occupation. And now it's like, well, what do we have here? Mr. Pusha T saying he's never changed a diaper, never snuck out a snotty nose. But it wasn't even that got people in a frenzy. So someone tweeted out saying, "I'm sorry, Pusha T was 29 and Virginia Williams was 18 when they got together. I won't even address that BS that he posted on his caption, but that age difference is yikes." And as you can see, none other than Mr. Champagne Petition Padre had liked the post, implying that he is a big fan of the fact that Pusha T met his wife when she was young. Now, there's other rumors online that she was 19, not 18. There was a 10-year age difference. Honestly, it's none of my business, and considering the fact that Pusha T is now, I believe, 48 years old, it seems like whatever difference there was in their age didn't stop them from having a long, successful marriage and growing a nice family. But, of course, with Kendrick, calling out all that weird activity that Drake has been on Not Like Us, that Drake was suing over, he is very happy to know that one of his other ops was not only out for any daddy duties like changing diapers, but had also met his wife when she was young. Very much legal, but very much young. Now, Pusha T wouldn't respond to this directly, but he did send laughing emojis at a tweet that said, People are calling Pusha T a deadbeat because he doesn't like changing diapers. And he just laughed at that. And yeah, considering the fact, again, they've been married for 20 years, I doubt that you can find anyone around Pusha's immediate family that would call him a deadbeat. I don't think Drake is a deadbeat either. But one thing Drake does not want to do is poke this bear. Alright, now Pusha T was also receiving some shots from Travis Scott recently. Of course, there's a whole backstory between Pusha and Travis. You died in front of me, you cried in front of me, Calabasas took your girl and your pride in front of me. You guys remember those bars on So Be It? Well, funny enough, something that gets kind of highly overlooked is that Travis Scott, in the middle of that week that the Clips released their album, he also released an album of his own, Jack Boys 2. It quickly got forgotten about, but there were a couple shots aimed at Pusha T on that project. I think I have a whole video breaking that down somewhere from July. I make too many of these videos. Drop a like for the output. Now, recently at a concert, I believe the same one that Kanye made an appearance at with Travis Scott had dissed Pusha T live on stage. I'm going to try to play you guys the clip if we don't get copyrighted, but basically he was rapping his little sneak diss from that Jack Boys album aimed at Pusha, and after rapping it, he said, "F this guy." Now again, two rappers that don't want to be barking up the Pusha tree, Travis Scott and Drake. And it's funny how they'll act like the victim if Pusha T comes out dissing them, or the Ovi hoes will say, oh, Pusha T only disses people when he has an album to roll out. He's always about the drama to get attention, but you see who's out here asking for the smoke, right? So if it comes, don't start crying. And don't start peeing either. Because speaking of pee, we gotta touch on the next hilarious situation that involved Drake dissing another rapper on Instagram in T.I. Now, if you guys didn't know, Drake and T.I. actually had a decent relationship early on in Drake's career. I believe T.I. at one point actually was even approached to sign a young Drake before he signed to Young Money. If that's true, I'm gonna drop a clip somewhere right around here.
Drake was introduced, I didn't see it. But at the same time, Drake had this manager, man, Hollaback T-Slack. And dude used to go hard, but kind of be a little bit annoying too, for real. You know, like, yo, what's up, this Hollaback T-Slack? It's a fine line between like persistence and being a pain in the ass. Yeah. That was another factor in it too, like, But, you know, shout out to Drake, like, yo, he went, and obviously, I'm sure he everything went perfect for him. Everybody got a story about who they missed out on. And you focused on your hustle, I'm gonna miss out on somebody else's hustle.
And regardless of that, they even collaborated on Drake's 2010 cut, Fancy, with Swizz Beatz. Now, Drake has his own issues with Swizz Beatz, and it looks like today he also has some issues with T.I. Because around 2010, T.I. had also dipped his toes in a little bit of an acting career. He was in the movie Takers, which also starred Chris Brown. I remember being in high school around this time, seeing trailers for this movie, knowing that it had T.I. and Chris Brown in it, but I never ended up going to watch the movie. But it seemed like there was a private screening of this movie before it was released, and Drake and T.I. were both in attendance at that screening. Don't forget, Drake was in his acting bag back in the day. Now, remember on the song Ace Trumpets off the Clips album, Pusha T raps, "Yellow diamonds look like pee-pee." Well, this might have been a subliminal shot at La Brianna. What most definitely wasn't a subliminal shot at La Brianna was the 2015 Meek Mill diss track, Wanna Know, where Meek rapped, "You let Tips homie PISS on you in the movie theater. We ain't forget.
I study
PISS
for a living."
Now, it's important to note that even though Drake didn't sign to T.I., Meek Mill was signed to T.I. Meek Mill was signed to T.I.'s Grand Hustle Records from 2008 to 2011. And on a side note, it's low-key crazy the amount of talent that T.I. has had under his roster. I'm not sure why these rappers end up signing to him early in their career and then just kind of branch off, like why he can't end up keeping them for longer contracts. He had Travis Scott on his roster, obviously Meek Mill. He was about to sign Drake. He had Iggy Azalea in her peak, and yeah, I know she's not the best rapper, but I mean, think about the massive hits that she had. She was signed to T.I. throughout that whole time. Anyways, remember that Meek Mill is signed to T.I. from 2008 to 2011 before he goes on to sign with Ricky Rose. Now, his diss track aimed at Drake came out in 2015, but the incident he's referring to is way back in 2010. When he was still signed to T.I., he was still part of T.I.'s camp. This is probably how he knew the information. And once he revealed that in this diss record, which was probably the second craziest thing he revealed after the whole Quentin Miller debacle, TMZ ended up picking up the story around this time and gave us some more details. So, they said in an article back then, Meek Mill's random line at the end of his Drake diss song, the one that Drake got used as a porta potty, that story is true. The lyric in question came at the very end of his song Wanna Know. Our sources say it all went down in 2010 during a private screening of the movie Takers on the Sony lot. Drake attended the screening of the movie, and 30 minutes in, he jumped up screaming and ran out of the theater. We're told a dispute erupted over who was sitting where. Apparently, Drake and one of T.I.'s childhood friends had gotten into it. The friend got pissed and pissed on Drake. Good joke, TMZ. So they continue. We're told Drake ran out of the theater screaming, "Mother effer," and our sources told us the obvious. Intoxicants were involved. Basically, T.I.'s friend was drunk, right? Now, it's interesting because T.I. and Drake would have a song together that month in September of 2010 called Poppin' Bottles. So I'm not sure how mad Drake was in the long run at the situation, and obviously it wasn't T.I. who did the deed, right? It was T.I.'s intoxicated friend. Apparently, he's in the movie theater, he had to urinate, he was drunk, or whatever the case is, under some sort of substance, ends up peeing, and some of it trickles on to Drake. Drake flips out, leaves the movie theater. This is what we would know in 2015, but by 2020, unfortunately, T.I.'s friend, the man at the face of this rumor, Terrence Cat Beasley, would sadly pass away, and T.I. did a tribute song to him where he talked about, the turbulences that Cap had faced throughout his life and the ups and downs they went through. It was a tribute song to him, and T.I. had rapped on it saying, "So much I could say about my guy Cap. Life as I know it, it started that day. I pulled up when you totaled your deuce in the quarter. You say I was winning the race though. Fifth of hen to the face, a 4/5 on your waist. Caught a body, spent millions appealing your case. While I'm fighting my own, somehow got you home. So drunk in LA, end up PISSing on Drake. F it, that's still my brother." Basically confirming that Cap was so drunk he ended up doing that on Drake, right? Now, once this song hit the internet, Drake hit Instagram and immediately unfollowed T.I. And T.I. emphasized in an interview later that he didn't mean any malicious intent by mentioning it, he was just reflecting on, again, the ups and downs between him and his friend. As far as the whole incident and Drake unfollowing him, T.I. had said, "That's the wildest stuff I ever seen in my effing life. But that stuff, I had no malicious intent. These blogs gonna take it and flip it however, and then I just don't see how that could ever be taken as a diss. I don't see how that could be. That would be someone allowing their emotions to manipulate them if they took it as a diss." Now, while T.I. definitely didn't mean it as a diss, Kendrick Lamar most definitely did when he referenced this incident. On Meet the Grams, he rapped towards Drake's son Adonis, giving him some life advice and saying, "You're a good kid that needs good leadership. Let me be your mentor since your daddy didn't teach you anything. Never let a man pee on your leg, son. Either you die right there or pop that man in the head, son." And it's funny because, reading these lyrics back, it almost sounds like a comedy song, like something Eminem would have written back in the day to troll someone or something. But when you listen to this song, obviously it's like one of the darkest songs of all time. But anyways, after this came out and resurfaced again with the Kendrick diss, obviously Drake didn't like that too much, right? So Friday Ricky Dredd of the We Love Hip Hop podcast, he's a big podcast in Toronto, and I guess he's affiliated with Drake. He was talking about the situation, saying again that it was kind of misconstrued because it was an accident. The guy who did it, rest in peace, he was drunk. He peed in the movie theater, a bit of it splattered on Drake. And Drake commented on the post in a Toronto accent for whatever reason, and he said this.
Because people are just going to take that and be like, so what, mans are just pissing on Drake? Like, for the people who never heard the story, it was T.I.'s cousin, R.I.P. to that gentleman. He was super drunk in a movie theater. He started peeing in some weird...
Let me do my Toronto accent and read it. "Nah, man never peed on me in my life, Crody. That story was for the internet because mans don't have nothing to say to get their interviews watched." I don't know what interviews he's referring to because T.I. put it in a song, Meek put it in a song, Kendrick put it in a song. No one did interviews about it. The only interview about it was T.I. saying that it was never meant as a diss. He was just reflecting on his friendship with his friend. But of course, Drake in 2010 is way different from Drake in 2025, right? Now he's the phony Montana manufactured mob boss. So a mob boss can't be used as a porta potty.
Like my mafia vibes.
And that's why Drake, 10 years later, has to come and address this rumor. Even though if this was really untrue, why wouldn't he have addressed it when he unfollowed T.I. 5 years ago? Why wouldn't he have addressed it when Meek Mill brought it up initially in the diss record? Why is he choosing now to address this? Well, your guess is as good as mine. My guess is he's got a bunch of other crap to worry about and he's trying to distract the public from the bigger things going on. I mean, if you guys haven't been keeping up over the last few weeks, it feels like it already got swept under the rug. But Drake was involved in 2 massive lawsuits and we're about to add a third to this. The first 2 are actually in relation to Spotify bots. Drake being accused of using bots on his music. After that whole UMG Kendrick Lamar lawsuit he filed, he was now roped into a lawsuit. The prime suspect of using bots were allegedly a ton of the streams of some of his music came from places that didn't even have residents actually living in them. How could there be Spotify devices, users that are on Spotify in places that don't actually have people living in them? Absolutely insane. And then we also had another lawsuit with Stake. I'm not going to get too deep into that lawsuit because I have a whole video breaking it down, and in that video it actually got age restricted for talking about sensitive matters related to, you know what Stake is all about, right? So you guys can check that out. You might have to log into your accounts to view it though. YouTube was trying to hide that one, right? So instead, let's look at this brand new lawsuit that was just dropped upon Drake's head top, and this one involves another case of La Brianna stealing art.
I study
Stealing art.
for a living.
But I'm not talking about stealing music. This time he was actually stealing an artistic shot from his recent music video, What Did I Miss? On a side note, I just think it's crazy how fast all those singles that Drake put out throughout the summer just absolutely came and went. Either he really did have the machine behind him the entire time and they just gave up on him, or people are just tired of the same formulaic stuff that he's been putting out, because these type of singles, I mean, especially the packaging behind them with all the live streams and this grand return. The song is literally called What Did I Miss? This is labeled as Drake's massive comeback, right? And as quickly as he came back, he fell right off the charts, which kind of leads us to question, what is the future of Drake's career at this point? A lot of people are saying hip-hop is dying without Drake. Drake has put out 40 plus songs in the last year. Obviously, they're not sticking to the level that they used to when he was running the game on a mainstream perspective. So something's going to have to change here if he wants to release his Iceman album and have it be as much of a success as GNX, right? Because that's obviously what people are pinning Drake's next solo release up against. Kendrick Lamar took the crown from Drake. A lot of OV hoes don't want to believe it. So the real determining factor will be, will Iceman be a bigger moment than GNX was? And if it's not, what does that say about the future of who's at the top from both a numbers and impact perspective? But that's a story for another video. That What Did I Miss music video, that is the face of a recent case. And I think Poetic Flocko did a really good job at breaking the whole thing down, so we're going to take a look at what he had to say about it. Now, mind you, this is a big Drake fan over here, so obviously he doesn't think there's much weight to this, but regardless, we'll take a look, and I'll add in some details as we go along.
This video right here is the cause of all the drama. So Drake released a visual with his song called What Did I Miss? In the song, Drake is surrounded by hella guns and poolside as he's rapping about how people betrayed him, seemingly talking about this Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef and how everybody turned on Drake during the beef. When this video initially got released, a lot of people were pointing out the similarities between Drake's video and the Amerigun campaign. The artist behind the Amerigun photo series is actually Gabriel Galimberto. Now, he would claim that he started this series, as you see right here, where he just takes photos of people with guns. He started it January 26, 2020, exactly 3 years ago. Well, from this post right here. Now, he would claim that these photos of mine depicted an aspect of American society and a close relationship it has with firearms, a relationship that in the last 3 years has become even more solidified. Gun sales has increased exponentially during the pandemic, and unfortunately, we often read tragic news related to the spread of these weapons. Right, so that was his purpose of creating the photo series. Now, this right here is probably the most popular photo from the photo series. And this right here is what a lot of people, including myself, would probably say was Drake's inspiration for his What Did I Miss video. I mean, if you watch Drake's video and look at his photo, is eerily similar. And of course, Drake got inspiration from this, okay? But Gabrielle believes even though Drake didn't use his original photo, Drake stole his idea. Drake stole the concept and used it for his music video. And because of that, he believes Drake owes him a check.
So, I mean, yeah, guys, you saw it for your own eyes, right? Like, that is basically an exact replica of this man's photo. And his entire photo shoot was meant to center around America's love or connection to firearms, right? That'll play an important role very shortly. But, I mean, this is like a basic bar for bar type of copy, right? And Drake is known for doing this. Remember the whole XXX Tentacion beef that he had where he literally took XXX's flow, line for line, melody for melody, cadence for cadence, used it and copy pasted it. This is pretty much the same thing, right? Except this is on a visual level. And maybe he thought no one would notice, but people actually noticed right away when the music video came out. They were drawing similarities to this photo shoot that this guy did, and now this guy wants a check, all right? I don't know how much of a check he's going to get. The song was kind of a flop, but let's see what he's looking for.
Now, Gabrielle would even say that the extent in which Drake copies him extends just beyond him stealing a photo idea, but he believed conceptually Drake took some things from his personal life as well. The lawsuit was stated without the consent of plaintiff and without his knowledge, defendants, which is Drake, infringed upon his rights by creating an entire music video scene featuring an unauthorized copy of the original work in the infringing video. Now, I've seen lawsuits like this in regards to music, like if somebody steals a particular beat or if they use a similar harmony or if they like reuse your lyrics or, you know, they re-sing your song that's very similar to your song. So we've seen it in that regard and we've seen people lose lawsuits in that regard. But I don't think I've ever seen this in terms of art. Now, and because I've never seen it, this might be a landmark lawsuit and this might go to case law at some point. Because if somebody drops a picture and then you utilize, you know, like similar imagery or you recreate something that looks similar to that particular picture in your music video, are you now liable? He would even have an issue with Drake dropping his music video on July 4th. Defendant's exploitation of plaintiff's original work is particularly troubling for several reasons. The entire theme of the infringing video is premised on plaintiff's The America Guns Project. Tellingly, the infringing video was released on July 4th, 2025, American Independence Day, to add further relevance to the title of plaintiff's The America Guns Project and to imply on information and belief that the infringing video was made in collaboration with the America Guns Project and/or its author. It's not even a discussion on whether or not Drake was inspired by this man's photo. He was, okay? I'm a Drake fan. I'm not gonna lie about that. He was inspired. And did he reach out to work with this dude? Probably not. He seen the idea, stole it, and didn't give homage or credit. That's wrong.
So yeah, Drake obviously didn't ask this guy for credit. There's no chance because he wouldn't be suing over it if Drake did ask for the credit. Now, it's ironic because Drake, being a Canadian, he dropped this music video on July 4th, and it's copying this guy's exact photo that was part of an art campaign in tribute to America. So it's kind of ironic he drops it on the 4th, right? And the guy is saying Drake is not just copying the actual image and the look of the entire thing, he's copying the actual theme behind it as well. I do agree, though, this is going to be, you know, a tricky lawsuit to win because obviously it's unprecedented, right? We've never seen someone suing someone else for copying a shot in a music video. I mean, we've seen people sue over name infringement, visual copyright infringement, logos, but someone taking a photo and then someone else shooting a music video that had the same scene as that photo, we've never seen something like that. So it'll be interesting to see how this actually plays out, but there's more to it.
He will continue and he will say, Drake didn't just only copy the picture. No, but Drake actually is copying his life story. So he will say, defendant Aubrey Drake Graham is professionally known for implying hidden meanings in his lyrics and audiovisual works meant to accompany his music. On information and belief, defendant Graham also selected to affiliate himself with plaintiff's original work for an additional reason. Namely, that plaintiff was publicly vilified for his role in a controversial Balenciaga advertisement involving false allegations of glorifying pedo.
Y'all remember when Balenciaga was going through that whole weird movement where people were accusing him of being pedos over like a couple weird photographs and pictures they put kids in, right? Like they had kids promoting some weird stuff, okay? Well, plaintiff, right? Apparently, he was a part of that entire campaign. So he claims Drake knows this, and Drake is trying to copy his story. Plaintiff was ultimately publicly vindicated in a defamation lawsuit abroad related to the false accusations arising from the Balenciaga advertisement. During the initial Balenciaga scandal, media articles, websites, posts, and news segments would display plaintiff's photographs from the America Guns Project alongside photos from the Balenciaga ad. Given Kendrick Lamar's directed lyrics at calling defendant Graham a pedo and defendant Graham's now dismissed defamation lawsuit on information and belief, Drake sought to imply that just like Gabriella, he would also be publicly exonerated at some point too. Now, Liz, I'll be real, bro. I think you adding too much spice, homie. All right, I think you think you're a little bit more important than what you really are, bro. Drake copied the picture for sure, for sure. Thinking that Drake knew your life story is crazy.
So this is really interesting, guys. If you guys didn't understand what's going on here, the guy who is suing Drake right now, he was also involved in a Balenciaga advertisement that people said was glorifying PDF, right? There was, again, kids modeling these weird items from Balenciaga, etc. They were roped into some lawsuits over it. This guy, the guy who's now suing Drake, he not only took that picture that Drake copied for What Did I Miss, the music video, but he was also taking photographs for that Balenciaga ad. So Balenciaga went to court over glorifying PDF in this photo shoot. This guy was roped into it, and ultimately he was exonerated. He was cleared. He's saying that by Drake using his image in the What Did I Miss music video, Drake is sending a subliminal message that Drake's story and this guy's story are very similar, right? Drake was also accused of being a PDF, and by using this guy's imagery, he's trying to mirror this guy's story to emphasize subliminally that he would also redeem himself when faced with these type of accusations. If he actually thought of this, Drake, then I give him a lot of credit, because that is a very layered Easter egg, if that's the case.
You could also tell that this dude don't respect hip-hop music at all. Like, he looks down upon hip-hop music and Drake in general. Or I don't know if it's Drake specifically or if it's hip-hop, because one of the other reasons why he would say he's entitled to damages, he would claim that his work, or Drake kind of copying his work, or like imitating it and then dropping on July 4th to make people think that he was a part of the Gun Project, which I think that July 4th thing is a stretch. I don't think Drake dropped on July 4th to make people think that he was linked to your project, right? I feel like Drake was trying to get off some theft, right? That's what I feel like, man. I feel like Drake seen your work, thought it was an amazing work, and tried to steal the concept for himself to make people think that he was this, this visual genius. I don't think Drake wanted anybody to know, right, that he copied your work, buddy. But this dude will say that Drake even imitating his work and associating him with Drake's at all would actually damage his reputation and have caused reputational damages, because he's a very serious guy. People even thinking that he's associated with Drake is damaging. Has Drake fallen from grace this far? There used to be a point in time where being shouted out by Drake, where being linked to anything Drake was actually a great honor and could really substantially boost your career. This dude says nada, okay? Now, he would write, plaintiff is a serious professional addressing serious themes. His work hangs in galleries, museums. You see how they look at hip-hop? This man said, man, I'm in galleries, I'm in museums, right? I'm in serious print literature, and my career depends upon the respect and admiration of dealers, collectors, and critics of contemporary documentary art. Nah, this is racist, bruh. This is racist, bruh. By the forced and authorized association of his work with the infringing video, the integrity of his work and reputation as a photographer has been damaged. This man said, bruh, I'm in museums, I'm in galleries, I'm in serious print literature. Me being linked to a hip-hop video, that could cost me my respect and admiration in this industry, bruh. All them country white folks, right, who's using my work, right, all them, I don't know, right? Good old Southern folk, man, they won't see me linked with no black man doing no hip-hop music video, bro. And he will say, accordingly as set forth more fully below, plaintiffs seek damages and equitable relief for direct, contributory, and vicarious copyright infringement arising from the creation and unlawful use of a substantially similar copy of his original work in violation of the United States Copyright Act. Mr. Gabriella will say that he was alerted to the misuse of his original work in Drake's music video by acquaintances who were surprised to see what they assumed to be his willing participation. He will say that he has suffered. Man, I don't know if this is like literally just gassing up this lawsuit, or if bro really believes that being associated with black culture is gonna ruin his image, because he is an Italian citizen, and you know how people get down over there. Drake said, well, not Drake, but you know, like Gabrielle, the plaintiff, says he has suffered and continues to suffer from the infringing activities of the defendant, including without limitation from defendants usurping of plaintiff's rights to control the publication and commercial use of the original work, defendants' failure to pay any licensing fees commensurate with the value of their video and promotional use of the original work and or its unauthorized copies, and defendants' failure to account for or disgorge the profits directly and indirectly attributed to their misconduct. In addition, defendants' actions have caused significant harm to plaintiffs in the original work, thereby significantly damaging the value of the original work and all of the plaintiff's other work and the value of any licenses for his photography in irrelevant markets.
So guys, this is absolutely insane. I mean, this guy is basically saying like Drake using my image in his music video because of how crappy Drake's brand is, because of how down bad he is. He's making my work look worse by associating his crappy brand to it. So that's lawsuit number 3 piled onto Drake's head top in just the last 2 weeks. Now, other than these lawsuits, Drake obviously has the lawsuit of his own, right? The big one against UMG for releasing and promoting Not Like Us, saying that it falsely accused him of being a PDF, and of course he's suing them for defamation and illegal business practices with the whole botting allegations, right? The judge, of course, dismissed the case, saying that Kendrick's lyrics, they were opinions, not facts, and the song had to be judged in the context of the rap battle, which Drake willingly participated in, and requested that Kendrick talk about him liking young girls. That's a gift. When the judge tossed the case, Drake appealed the dismissal. Basically, he wants to fight this thing out, all right? So now we're at the point where Drake's legal team has filed a civil appeal pre-argument statement in the U.S. Court of Appeals. Basically, the pre-argument statement details some, but not all, of the arguments that Drake's attorneys intend to bring forth in the appeal of the lawsuit's dismissal. So when Drake's lawyers come forth to the appeals court and say, hey, this is why the case shouldn't be thrown out, these are some of the core main arguments they're going to be showing to prove why the case should move forward and shouldn't be thrown out. So they list a couple major mistakes that they believe the judge made when she threw the case out. The appeals court will look at everything fresh from scratch without giving the judge any benefit of the doubt. So number 1, they're going after first the main claim of the lawsuit, which is the accusation of defamation, right? And Drake's lawyers question, did the judge mess up by deciding important facts herself way too early before any evidence was exchanged? As you guys probably know, Drake was requesting some crazy documents from UMG, like Kendrick's contracts, any information that UMG knew about Kendrick's kids and Day Free. Because the judge tossed the case very early, Drake wasn't able to get that evidence from UMG, and so he couldn't actually build this case out to the level he wanted to and have valid evidence to show the judge. Specifically, did the judge wrongly decide the context of Kendrick's accusations without letting Drake gather evidence, especially since the song, cover art, and video were released in many different situations and not just one, right? It wasn't just that they had the rap battle and all the songs went on streaming platforms. It was that this scoped beyond the rap battle, right? It went to the Super Bowl, the Grammy Awards. This song reached an audience far wider than just rap battle fans. So was the judge too quick to, say that the context of this was just the rap battle and then toss out the case? Drake's lawyers also question, did the judge unfairly assume certain things about Drake? Like assuming that nobody would take the lyric, rabbit hole is still deep, I can go further, I promise, as Kendrick saying he has more secret evidence. Did she also ignore Drake's claims and examples showing that many real people did believe Kendrick was stating actual facts about Drake being a PDF? I mean, she touched on this when she dismissed the case. He put a bunch of different random quotes from social media users, like people like you and me on YouTube just commenting Drake is a PDF. I've never said that personally, but I'm saying people on social media will say that, right? And that's what Drake had as evidence in his lawsuit to show that people really do believe he's a PDF. Drake's lawyers are also questioning, did the judge wrongly decide way too early that the song was quote unquote just opinion instead of letting a jury decide how a normal person would hear it? Basically, they had to judge if this is truly defamation. Would a reasonable listener who's hearing Not Like Us believe that Kendrick is stating facts when he's rapping those bars, or is he just stating his own opinion, right? They're also questioning, did the judge make a mistake by ruling that the song couldn't possibly be taken as stating real facts, even though Drake said many listeners did take it that way? Was it wrong for the judge to say the only way to understand the song is by viewing it as part of the rap beef, ignoring the fact that huge parts of the public heard the song totally outside of the context of the rap beef? Again, they heard it at the Super Bowl, they heard it at the Grammy Awards, maybe they didn't know anything about the battle. In Judge Vargas's dismissal of the case, she also treated all the songs from the rap battle as if they must be read together, even when many listeners had only heard Not Like Us. That's because Not Like Us became a much bigger song than any other track from the battle, right? So Drake's team is saying it has to be judged on its own, whereas the judge is saying, no, you participated in this battle. The whole objective of the battle was to destroy your opponent, Kendrick just did that better than you, so we got to look at that at a fair view, that this was the context that this song, this defamatory material that you're accusing him of producing, was released in. Drake's lawyers in this new argument are questioning, though, did the judge make a mistake by acting like everyone who heard Not Like Us also knew every diss track from the beef? Especially when Not Like Us was way bigger than the other songs, and millions of people at the Super Bowl or the Grammys had no idea it was even part of a rap beef. And did the judge wrongly say that UMG can't be sued for reposting or re-promoting the song months later to totally new people, even if those people understood the accusations as a fact? Basically, maybe UMG wasn't wrong for putting out the song initially, but once it grew legs and became huge, they kept promoting it everywhere, licensing it again to the Super Bowl and all these big stages. Can they be tried and liable just for that if the song really is defamatory? Now, they also questioned, did the judge make a mistake by comparing a professionally written diss song to random online comments on YouTube or Twitter? I guess when she threw out the case, Judge Vargas was saying that, sometimes you get into a Twitter argument, you'll throw some crazy things out there, but again, it's in the context of a little beef. This is the same thing, but is it really the same thing if this is a rap battle, not a social media war? And beyond that, when you're looking at the average listener, did the judge wrongly decide that the song's tone, even with the cover art and video, wouldn't make a normal person believe Kendrick was stating real facts about Drake being a PDF? And was it wrong for the judge to treat the song, the album cover, and the video as if they were all part of one package, instead of considering that people saw them separately and at different times? Some people might have just seen the video. Some people might have just seen the cover art, right, on like a TMZ headline or something like that. The judge packaged them all together. Also, they're asking, did the judge ignore the allegations that certain lyrics, like Say Drake, I Hear You Like I'm Young, or The Rabbit Hole Is Still Deep bar, sound like Kendrick is hinting that he has extra proof? And this is stupid to me because in that same song, he raps, how many stocks do I really have in stock? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 5. The rabbit hole bar is obviously in relation to the fact that he could have kept this beef going, right? You have to judge this whole thing in the context of a rap battle, because if not, these lines don't even make sense, and then it allows someone like Drake to come in and try to make this a whole conspiracy that Kendrick was trying to say there was secret information that he was withholding that he would maybe put out in a new diss track related to Drake being a PDF. Now, they're also asking, did the judge make unfair assumptions against Drake instead of accepting his factual claims as true? What factual claims, you might ask? Well, of course, Drake is claiming that people did take the accusations in Not Like Us as literal fact. 2, many people thought the lyric meant Kendrick had more evidence, the whole rabbit hole is still deep bar. And 3, Drake claims that the video's caged owl, which is Drake's symbol, of course, suggests that Drake belongs in prison. These are Drake's claims, and the judge, again, was saying you're a rapper, it was your job to bring in these visual elements, these bars, to destroy your opponents. We got to look at this like it's a rap battle, because that's what it was. He's also asking, did the judge improperly rely on outside evidence that she wasn't supposed to use at this early stage? I'm guessing he means like the lyrics from other diss songs, especially tailor-made when Drake is requesting that Kendrick, quote-unquote, talk about him liking young girls. They also ask, was the judge wrong when she said you can't sue for harassment in New York, even though other courts, including the appeals court, have allowed harassment lawsuits before? Because the judge was saying that has to be a criminal case, not a civil case. Now, that was the second claim, right? The harassment claim. And then the third claim in his lawsuit was the whole illegal business practices claim, saying that UMG used payola, they used the bots to boost the numbers, right? The judge was saying Drake didn't provide enough factual evidence within his initial lawsuit to make a reasonable case for that being true. Drake's lawyers are now asking the appeals court to look, did the judge wrongly rule that Drake didn't show UMG misled consumers or harmed them? Because he had, several different very speculative statements within the lawsuit, just basically people discussing on Twitter, a live stream Akademiks did with a quote-unquote whistleblower who said that Anthony Soleil paid for bots on Not Like Us. He had all these vague sources that weren't really sources because there was no factual evidence behind them to show that, hey, maybe UMG was using bots behind this song. The judge said, like Kendrick says on TV Off, that's not enough, but now Drake is asking the appeals court to look, did she wrongly rule that Drake didn't show enough evidence? Did she improperly reject Drake's claim just because some details were based on what Drake believed, even though UMG controlled the evidence and Drake provided plenty of supporting facts? A lot of the accusations Drake made about the bots in his lawsuit, they started off by saying upon information and belief, aka we have reason to believe this is true, but we don't have the evidence yet. And that's why we need the discovery phase to go on in this lawsuit, because we need to dig through UMG's documents to find the evidence we need. Drake's lawyers are now trying to go to the appeals court to say, did the judge just reject Drake's claims about the bots, about the payola, because they were all based off what Drake believed and what he thought to be true? Obviously, UMG controls that evidence, right? Only UMG would know if the bots were actually deployed. Drake would have to prove that by gathering evidence from them. But because the judge threw the case out, he didn't have the chance to do that. So Drake is now asking the appeals court to review if the judge threw out the case too early before he can even gather the evidence to make his real claim. And did she just think his claim was BS because he said it was on information and belief? And finally, did the judge fail to accept Drake's claim that UMG's actions targeted music fans and caused real harm? He was accusing them of shoving Not Like Us on every homepage, every playlist, shoving it down our throats, right? And bodying it so that it was higher on the charts, it had more visibility. Drake is saying that would harm consumers. The judge disagreed. But he's now asking the appeals court to determine, did the judge just fail to accept that Drake's claim was actually valid? Now, in this case, obviously Drake is shoveling piles of money down his lawyers' throats to keep this case going, right? And it could stretch on for years. So in order to avoid that, the court is actually requiring both sides, Drake's legal team and UMG's legal team, to participate in a mandatory mediation session. The mediation is scheduled for December 9th, 2025. A mediator will be present to talk to both sides, and they'll try to see if Drake and UMG can essentially settle the appeal privately instead of fighting it out in court. They got to determine basically whether there's any room for compromise, which issues can be clarified or narrowed down, possible settlement options, and the legal strengths and weaknesses of Drake's appeal. Now, the thing is, nothing in this mediation session can be repeated publicly or used in court if they decide to continue to pursue this case and they can't reach a settlement. And we'll never know what was actually discussed here, but we'll probably find out if they do end up settling in this meeting here. But what's interesting is that considering one judge already threw out this case, does UMG really have incentive at this point to settle with Drake? I mean, he is still signed to them, right? He's got to release that Iceman album eventually. Now, I'm no lawyer, so let me know in the comments, like, if Drake ends up taking this thing to court and loses a lawsuit, is he responsible to also cover UMG's legal fees, since they're the ones hiring lawyers to fight this case? But if they end up being, in the right, does Drake have to cover that charge as well? I don't know. All I know is that things are looking dark out here for Drake between the lawsuits that have been filed against him and this one seeming like it's going nowhere quick, him shoveling more and more money down his lawyers' throats and just making himself look worse in the public eye, and also holding his album hostage in the process, right? Because I'm sure there's a lot of things he can't really discuss on that project given the fact that he has open litigation out here, right? And the fact that it's against the very record label that's going to be releasing this project. If Drake expected them to censor Kendrick's Not Like Us for his own benefit, I'm sure UMG will not greenlight any music where Drake is exposing some sort of stuff that he might know, those big red buttons, right, that he claims he's been having. But hey, if his career as a rapper doesn't pan out, he always has a bright and flourishing career as a porta potty in the future. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you in the next one.
I study
Rapaholics
for a living.